Hello everybody, welcome back to my movie review series. Today we'll be discussing the final installment, or at least the current final installment of Terminator. So I just picked this one up. I definitely haven't reviewed the first two Terminators, but I have reviewed, I think there's 5 total, but I've reviewed 2 or 3 of them. But this one, kind of a lot, forget the plot line, but you know how we do it. I will give you my overall impressions and grade after reading the logistics and basics and just talking some very brief facts about the movie. After that, if you've not seen the movie, would like to, based or not based on my recommendation, you want to shut off the video. There will be spoiler alerts. We'll be discussing the plot synopsis and character development, and any similar movies or major themes. And so, this one I just picked up, it was just on TNT, and if you're a Spectrum customer, you can watch some of these older movies on demand. I don't even know how to get to them, if there's like a list of them. If you just see them currently playing, you click on it, you kind of just like saves on your recently watched things, you can pretty much watch it whenever. So that is where I watched this one. So let's see, Terminator Dark Fate was released in 2019. It is rated R. It has a runtime of 2 hours and 8 minutes. It is an action/science fiction movie. Picking up on the plot development of the other Terminator movies. So it says, what did we have? In Mexico City, a newly modified liquid Terminator, the Rev 9 model, arrives from the future to kill a young factory worker named Donnie Ramos. Also sent back in time is Grace, a hybrid cyborg human who must protect Ramos from the seemingly indestructible robotic assassin. But the two women soon find some much-needed help from a pair of unexpected allies, seasoned warrior Sarah Connor and the T-800 Terminator, which is Arnold Schwarzenegger. 70% liked it on Rotten Tomatoes, 6.2 out of 10 on IMDb. It said you can also watch it currently on Hulu. So what did I think about Terminator Dark Fate? I liked it a little better than either Terminator 4 for sure. I thought the plot line of Terminator 4 was extremely convoluted and too much time travel to have any sort of consistent plot development. Still kind of, I actually thought like the cinematography, like this, it is set in Mexico City, in some parts in Texas, modern day to 2019, I believe. But I actually thought like the graphics, the animation, or the CGI was just not as convincing for being a movie released later with more technology, because these 5 movies span since like the 80s till now, and so I actually thought the presentation, the cinematography was less convincing in terms of like the action sequences and just the graphics and animation. So overall, I thought it was a little better than the fourth one, but still I'm going to give it a C+. Not quite in the entertaining range. It wasn't deranged, it wasn't off-putting, but it certainly wasn't like. The only reason I watched it is just because it popped up on the thing on the cable channels, and not really like searching this one out. I like to search out movies that I either have a genuine interest in that I haven't seen, or movies that I have already seen that I enjoy. So this one didn't really do much for me. It wasn't off-putting, just run-of-the-mill action flick, and I think it's kind of losing its luster. The first 2 Terminators being very good, third one being alright, fourth one being off-putting, not off-putting, but just blah, and this one also being kind of blah. So overall, C+. If you've not seen the movie or would like to, you're going to shut off the video now. So the movie opens up, you meet Danny, she has a brother Diego. They're kind of like factory workers, they are in Mexico City. And so immediately, again, you see the same type of presentation or introduction to the Terminators, where again, there's just like this electrical ball and a Terminator falls from the sky. And so you get 2 people, you have one is the Rev 9, and again, it's a liquid base or something, but basically you can just separate it into like 2 different types of you can just split in 2, and one again looks like modifies to a normal human, and the other one looks like a cyborg. And so he uses that function a couple times, but the Rev 9 comes and he starts trying to find his target is to kill Danny, and a girl named Grace comes, who is a augmented human. So you get a scene later on in the movie where she's like in this battle, she's fighting for their commander, she gets severely injured, and they just modify her substantially, so she is human but augmented with a lot of this advanced technology from the cyborgs. So she comes back, she helps a Mexican couple get away from police, just because that's where she spawns and she needs a car. And so they end up stealing the couple she helps get away from police, she ends up stealing their car. But now the Rev 9, Danny and Diego go off to work, And then you see a scene where the Rev 9 shows up at Danny's house and talks to her father, and the father's like, no one calls her Daniela. All of her friends call her Danny. I never heard of you before. And then there's no kill scene, but it's the Terminator, so that the dad is now dead. He shows up at the factory that they're at, and the Rev 9 is like impersonating her father. And Grace and the Rev 9 have their first interaction. Again, Grace is defending Danny and Diego, specifically Danny, but helps them both escape from the attack of the Rev 9 at the factory. So they get in a car chase. They're driving all around, driving real fast. And again, the opening scenes was what I'm talking about. I thought the animation was really not convincing. It was really those kind of scenes, really the whole movie, but those scenes specifically. And so again, another sequence of very similar to 1, 2, 3, and 4, where they have a big truck and they're trying to drive away, and it's like jumping on and latching on and trying to kick it off. So it just seemed like the sequence of the plot was extremely similar, and the actual development of like the overall point of this movie is pretty much the same exact plot line as the first one. And so basically, the Grace starts throwing. They're in just kind of like a normal pickup truck, and he's getting chased with like a big truck. And Grace is throwing like these metal rebar rods to just try to slow it down, but not having much success. So there's an action sequence, and then basically the car flips over. Diego gets impaled with one of the rebar rods. And Diego's like, Danny, you have to save yourself. And Grace is like, come on, Danny, we have to go. And then the Rev 9 slams into the car after Danny and Grace escape and kills Diego. So Diego's now dead. On comes the scene. Sarah Connor, the iconic character from the first ones, and the previous ones. But she is basically just, her character in this movie is basically... her son John had been killed in this one. Again, I can't remember the exact plot developments from the previous movies with all the time flipping around. But she is just basically, she gets text messages randomly from an encrypted number that says these coordinates, and that's where a Terminator pops up. And the text messages always say for John. So that's how Sarah gets there. She just gets alerted that there's been a breach in the time warp or something. And so, but she's heavily armed and is able to fend off the Rev 9 for a little bit, kind of like knocks him over a cliff, like down a dam wall or down just like a bridge, and then throws a big pack of C4 or something onto it and blows it up, and slowing it down, not killing it. And so Sarah, Grace, and Danny now have the ability to escape. Grace and Danny steal Sarah's car. They're not sure who Sarah is yet. They go into town. Grace is like modified for like short bursts of extreme activity, and she's like losing her metabolism or something, so they have to go to a doctor's office to try to get the medicine she needs. They pull a gun on the doctor to get the medicine. Danny is still not sure exactly what's going on. But Grace collapses. Danny takes the gun from Grace and kind of sides with Grace, realizing that her life is in imminent danger. They get the medicine she needs, and Sarah Connor catches back up with them, and they all get in the car and drive together. I actually thought Sarah Connor's characterization in this one was rather weak and kind of off-putting. She's just, when she meets, later on you meet Arnold again, but just her line delivery was just off-putting for me. It was like kind of like this older woman that's kind of, upset about her son, but just the way she delivered her lines, what she said was an off-putting characterization for me in this movie. And so they get to some abandoned house or just some place, and they interrogate like a hotel room, and Grace wakes up from being unconscious. Sarah and Grace get acquainted with one another. They're not too friendly at first. Sarah just wants to kill the Terminators. Grace needs to protect Danny, and they just kind of have a rough getting to know each other, I guess. Then after that, they need to. Grace has some coordinates tattooed onto her. I guess basically where they need to go, and so it's someplace in Texas, Laredo, Texas, I believe. And so they need some way to get across the border. Danny's uncle is a coyote, so he kind of like helps them try to get across the border. As they're going there, the Rev 9 breaks into the border patrol. He learns. He sees that they're at a train station, and he's able to like hack into some data center and access security cameras and sees them and knows where to go as well. And so while they're in the desert, the Rev 9 is able to kill a bunch of Border Patrol agents and access a drone. And so the Rev 9 sends a bunch of human patrol people like on foot to go to arrest them. He says they're known members of the Sinaloa cartel, blah blah blah, and draws them out. And now they're at gunpoint by the Border Patrol. And then the Rev 9 has the drone fire like a bomb at them to try to kill them. So another action sequence. They're able to get away, but they are apprehended into Border Patrol like captivity, and so they get put into like a waiting cage. They know they need to get away because the Rev 9 is going to be coming. A couple minor characters in there, a couple minor lines, and then the Rev 9 does come. They're able to break out of the cage. The Rev 9 kills a bunch more Border Patrol people, and they're able to, again, Grace is able to fend them off, fight them off, and both Sarah Connor, Grace, and Danny escape. And so they escape out of there. I think they fly a plane or they drive a car, but regardless, they have to go. They're still trying to get to this address. They show up at the address, and that is when Arnold comes back out. Again, he's just the original Terminator, Arnold Schwarzenegger. And basically, Arnold his characterization is he's been this robot that since Skynet has been destroyed, he has no more orders, so he's had 20 years to develop his emotions or try to be like a human, so he's not fully capable of emotional capacity, but he is like he has a non-physical relationship with a woman, and he's like the stepfather to a kid. And so they basically decide they're going to set a trap. Grace wants to keep running, and Danny's like, I want to stand and fight. And so Sarah's like, we're going to set a death box or something, a kill box, just some confined area where they can detonate an EMP, electromagnetic pulse, and try to fry the neural network of the Rev 9. Grace is originally against it, but Danny's like, no, we're going to stay and fight and get this done. And so basically they leave from where Arnold is staying, and where do they go? They drive to I don't know, some type of I don't know if it's a military facility or just some sort of manufacturing facility, blah, blah, blah. I'm probably missing some things, but they get into another chase on an actual dam. There's a little bit of fighting underwater between Arnold and Sarah. Really wants to kill Arnold, the Terminator, because Arnold killed John. Again, where in this sequence of movies was John actually killed? I don't really remember, but again, maybe at the end of the fourth one, I just don't remember. But regardless, there's some fighting underwater scenes. Arnold's able to take a lot of damage. Grace is able to take a good amount of damage. They meet with the military contractor, and they get their EMP. The EMP gets destroyed in this, they're in a plane. They crash down into this water. So it's a big action sequence. I'm not going to remember the whole thing. I don't really care to. But that's kind of what happens. And then kind of getting to the resolution of the movie. You learn that Grace is saved in the future by Danny. So they're still thinking the very first Terminator, where it's Sarah Connor's going to give birth to John Connor, who's going to lead the resistance against Skynet. Well, now in this future, Grace, there's something called the Legion, and that's the neural network robots that take over in the future. And so you have a throwback scene where Grace is leading this resistance, or Danny is leading the resistance, and she rescues a young Grace in the future. So again, the timeline continuity does not match up for me at all, and it's just kind of off-putting at this point. I think this movie series has run its course. But regardless, that's what happens. They get out of the water. They're able to, again, go into another type of military type or just industrial type facility. Arnold is severely injured, one of his metallic arms is removed, below the elbow. Grace is in serious trouble. And Grace is to Danny, we lost the MP, but the power source for my augmentation, you can use that to fry the neural net of the Rev 9. So the final sequence is they get into this other industrial place, another big fight scene. Both Arnold, Grace, and Sarah and Danny are fighting against the Rev 9. Arnold takes a bunch of damage again. He's already taken a bunch of damage, but the Rev 9, they try to there's this big spinning, again, some sort of industrial equipment thing. They kind of smush his face against there to rip his face apart. So he gets thrown in there and it explodes. But it is not dead yet. And so I think Arnold gets knocked out for a little bit. Again, it's a 15-minute fight sequence. But I'm not sure if Arnold's Terminator dies in this one at the end as well. But the Rev 9 is not killed by the big spinning industrial thing. Grace has this fight sequence where she's swinging this rope and this metal chain and a hook and doing some damage to the Rev 9. And then she's able to, Danny is able to cut open Grace's chest and take out the power source and shove it in the Rev 9's face, and it short circuits and kills it. So the Rev 9 is dead at the end. I'm not sure if Arnold's Terminator is dead or not. I believe so. But regardless, that is what happens. Then the final scene is Danny and Sarah, the hardened warriors, just kind of watching Grace as a younger child before she'd come back from the future. And so that's kind of the resolution of the movie. Again, it's extremely similar to the plot development of the very first movie. A little better than Terminator 4, but overall it didn't really do much for me. It was just kind of mindless action. And I think these installments of Terminator have run their course. So overall, C+ for me. Not off-putting, not entertaining, just whatever. But that is it. Thank you for watching, and I will see you on the next one.